Welcome to today's show, Legacy Living, Make Your Life Count. I'm your host, Dr. Gloria Burgess, passionate, inspirational speaker, author, poet, and entrepreneur. Good morning, and welcome to Legacy Living, Make Your Life Count. I'm delighted that you joined me today. I want to give a big thank you to those of you listening in today all around the world. I'm delighted and so grateful that you tuned in. I sure hope you're enjoying a fabulous day today and that you're having a fantastic week. Because you know what? In the grand song of the universe, life is pretty short. It's short, sweet, and very, very precious. So I hope you're making a difference in your own life, because when you do, you also make a difference in someone else's life. A lot of folks want to make their life count for something. And they ask me, Dr. Gloria, how do you do that? Well, it's very, very simple. Very simple. Here's how I do it. I make my life count as a daughter, as a wife, as a mom, sister, and in my professional life as a leadership expert, as a speaker, as a coach, professor, and mentor. I make my life count by being on purpose, by living, learning, and serving every single day, 365, 24/7. See what I mean? It's very simple, right? You can do it too. You can make your life count day by day, step by step, moment by moment, smile by smile, every single day, 365, 24/7. That's what legacy living, make your life count, is all about. Now, you can learn more about legacy living, make your life count, by visiting the Gloria Burgess website. That's GloriaBurgess.com. That's the Gloria Burgess website, GloriaB, B as in boy, URGESS.com, or by visiting Facebook. And that's Facebook.com/DrGloriaBurgess/PhD/. Okay? All right. Now today I have a very special show for you. Today's podcast is all about serving. Specifically, I will focus on celebrating service, because you know what? Everybody, that means you, everybody can serve. Now, if you are a regular listener to this podcast, you know that serving and being of service is one of the great ideas we talk about here, not just once in a while, but every single podcast. That's really what legacy living is all about, making a difference in your own life so that you can make your life count for others. Legacy living is all about living, loving, and serving every single day, 365, 24/7. You know what? That's exactly how Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. lived his life, living, loving, and serving. Not just once in a while. Dr. King served 365, 24/7. So today, I want to shine the light on serving. And I'm going to shine that light on serving by looking through the lens of what Dr. King calls the drum major instinct. The drum major instinct. Now, you're going to want to take notes today, right? Now, Dr. King delivered a sermon called the drum major instinct. Some of you may know that he delivered this very important sermon towards the end of his own life. And this sermon is all about serving. Now, what does serving and being a drum major have in common? Great question, right? Well, let's look at what it means and what it takes to be a drum major. Have you ever seen a marching band? Well, one of the two leaders of the marching band is the drum major. If you've ever seen a pipe band or a drum and bugle corps, the leader of those groups is also called a drum major. Now, picture this. The drum major is usually positioned at the very head of the marching band or at the head of the pipe band or the drum and bugle corps. Now, maybe some of you have been a part of a marching band or pipe band, or maybe you've been a musician in a drum or bugle corps. I certainly have. I remember when I was in my high school marching band. I played the saxophone. And I also remember we had wonderful uniforms. Our school colors were green and gold. And our uniforms were this beautiful dark green with gold corded trim on the shoulders. We wore these wonderful white helmets, and on top of the helmet was a beautiful feather in green and gold. We wore white spats on top of our black shoes, and to top it off, we wore these shimmery gold overlays, kind of like a long vest, right, that you wore outside of the jacket rather than inside. We looked sharp, snazzy even. You know, we thought we looked fantastic, and we did. Now, the drum major always looked very snazzy, too. In fact, drum majors were outfitted with snazzier outfits than the band members. It was the same green and gold, but the gold corded trim was a little bit more ornate. It had more ribbon in it, a bigger braid, and the cords just kind of draped down over the shoulders. I remember that the drum major had a shorter jacket, and that jacket was white, so we could easily see him or her. And instead of black shoes, the drum major wore black boots that were knee-high, which was very, very impressive looking. Now, the drum major also carried a baton and wore a whistle around the neck. Why the baton and why the whistle? Well, the drum major was the person who provided the commands to the band. The drum major was also the person responsible for leading the band while we were marching. The drum major set the tempo for our march and the tempo for the music we played. The drum major also used the whistle to signal the tempo. Tweet, 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 tweet. And he or she would hold the baton way up high, pumping his or her arm to amplify the tweeting of the whistle. Now, the drum major was the servant leader of the entire marching band. So all that ornate clothing and the baton held high and the whistle with all those tweets, that served a purpose, a very specific purpose. The drum major served so that all could see, so that all were touched, so that all were moved, quite literally, in the same direction. So Dr. King's sermon about the drum major instinct is all about serving, all about being of service, all about being a servant leader. When I was doing the research for this show, I listened several times to Dr. King delivering that sermon, and there were so many lessons in it that I wanted to share with you. Then I realized, I could probably do a whole year's worth of shows on that one sermon alone. I mean, imagine that. But I knew that I needed to focus on just one thing today, and that's serving. Now, in his sermon, Dr. King talks about the drum major instinct, and he says that we all have it. This instinct shows up in our desire to be recognized, our desire to have someone call our name, so to speak. This is our desire for importance or significance. In Scripture, In the Gospel of Matthew, the disciples James and John make a specific request of the Master. Like many, many Hebrews before them, James and John dreamed of a coming king of Israel. This coming king would actually set Jerusalem free. This coming king would establish his kingdom on Mount Zion. This coming king would rule in righteousness. Indeed, this coming king would rule the world. James and John actually thought of Jesus as this kind of king. And James and John said to Jesus, "Now when you establish your kingdom, let one of us sit on the right hand and the other on the left hand of your throne." Now we're told that the other disciples were upset. They became angry with James and John, right? Now, why did the disciples get so mad? Because just like James and John, they also wanted to be up close and personal with King Jesus. Like James and John, they also wanted to sit at the right and the left hand. And like James and John, they wanted to have a seat right next to the throne of the king. Now, we're very much like James and John, right? We want to be up close and personal with someone. Can I just tell you something? We all want attention. We crave it. We all want to be first with someone, somewhere, at some time. We all want to be the favorite. That desire for attention, that desire to be first, to be the most important, to be recognized, that desire to lead the parade, that desire is what Dr. King refers to as the drum major instinct. In his sermon, Dr. King cautions us. That's right, he cautions us. He warns us. He actually beckons us to harness this instinct, to harness the instinct. Why? Because if we don't harness that drum major instinct, the instinct to be noticed, to be recognized, to get attention, to feel important, if you don't harness this instinct, it is very easy to fall into the trap of pushing other people down in order to lift ourselves up. Now, we don't do it intentionally, most of us, but that is the impact. Or it's easy to fall into the trap of feeling important because you belong to this or that exclusive club or this or that exclusive group, right? Or, the church that's so unique, or the golf club, or the women's group, or the men's group, or you live in a specific neighborhood, or you drive a very special kind of car, or you wear a particular brand of clothing or shoes, or you can only carry this or that kind of purse or backpack or whatever, right? You know what I'm talking about. The list goes on and on and on, doesn't it? In this sermon, Dr. King reminds us that we all have a common father, that all women are sisters, that all men are brothers, because we have a common father. So he shows us in this sermon that the desire, the drive, the motive to serve can actually become distorted. We can misuse it. We can misuse our desire to serve ourselves, right, instead of serving others. King also reminds us that when we nurture this instinct, that it can be an incredibly rich resource. A resource that you can use, that I can use, that all of us can use to